What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about where was the new Crash game. Now, I want to kind of go back and talk about what we knew about this new Crash game that seemingly does exist and seemingly is eventually going to come. But also talk about why wasn't it at the Game Awards? Why wasn't it at Sony State of Play? And what's going on with it? I think this is an important question to ask because if you guys have been with the channel a little while or you have seen other videos on the channel, we've talked about quite a few games that could have been at the Game Awards or at State of Play. We talked a lot about the Batman Arkham game, and there were a lot of things I feel like missing in general. And so this is kind of the first step. I do want to talk about one other game or one other franchise of games that were missing, and I also want to talk about games that we did see at the Game Awards. So a couple late Game Award videos coming to you guys over the next couple days. When it comes to this Crash game, the leaks and rumors seem to be pretty darn solid. It followed pretty much a pattern of what we got last year. Now, I'll quickly recap what we were given in terms of those leaks or rumors, and then talk about, why wasn't it there, when we could actually see this, and basically the future of Crash. So basically, we had social media influencers be given Crash Bandicoot products or gifts, basically. And this happened last year right before Team Racing got announced at the Game Awards. So it definitely followed a similar trend. There's also been that long rumor or leak of the Crash Bandicoot Worlds, as that is what it's going to be called, and how that is going to basically be kind of like a Spyro inspired kind of thing, right? That it's going to be not necessarily open world, but that's the general premise, that you're going to be able to jump into different portals, stuff like that. And it's obviously a brand new Crash video game rather than maybe a remake to Crash Bash, which I said, and I will say in every single Crash video I think I ever make, I want a Crash Bash remake. That is definitely what I'm aiming for, and that's what I'm petitioning for. But if they want to come back to that at a later date, or if they want this Worlds game kind of to be a mix of all of the Crash games, that would also be cool. And finally, the other thing is Sony ads. Sony has been recently, obviously around Christmas time, they've been promoting their system, their games, all that stuff, and they've had a series of ads rolling, and one of those ads had Crash in it, Crash Team Racing. It had the carts going around, but it also had a new mask character, if you guys saw that. And that was a big thing when that ad first came out, that people took screenshots and people said, hey, that looks like a brand new mask. I believe it was around Cortex, that was floating around Cortex, that was a brand new mask. So that's really, there hasn't been an insane amount of stuff, but things have been piling up. We have the rumor of Crash. I guess I should just call them rumors, because if they're leaks, I guess they're not officially leaks until the game is actually announced, right? But we've heard the whole Worlds concept be thrown around. We also know just generally by intuition that there is a new Crash game coming from the studio, I believe, that made the Crash Insane Trilogy, right? Vicarious Visions. They've been working on stuff for a few years now, and you even, I think if you looked at the years that these games have come out, it wouldn't make the most sense in the world for the game to come out this upcoming year, which, if you would have announced it at State of Play, if you would have announced it at the Game Awards, I feel like it would have been a 2020 game. I mean, most of the games announced at the Game Awards were that, aside from maybe Hellblade 2, which I think would probably be in 2021. But and that's every 2-year thing that Crash has done every other year in June makes sense. So I think June 2021 seems to be the time. It didn't to me, it didn't seem like a thing before these leaks kind of came out, or before we started getting all this stuff. It wasn't something that was on my front burner, that I was this is something that I would 100% predict would be at whatever event. It wasn't like that, because I just felt like it's kind of too early for that. But at the same time, I do agree, it's especially the mask character in that ad, because I remember seeing, again, those pictures and people pointing it out. That's very weird. You don't have something like that unless something is up. Unless it was just generally a really, really bad mistake where they were trying to do one of the actual masks in the Crash game and they just messed up. But I really, you don't just mess that up. And I know they're just commercials. It's not like a AAA, budget game, or it's not like a Hollywood movie or something like that. But you still put time into it, and obviously things in it. And especially sometimes those kind of commercials, they're known for their Easter eggs. It's fun to see what they threw in there, because they're very self-aware. So because of all that stuff, it's like they know what they're putting in their trailers. They know what they're making. I don't think it was like a technical mistake that ended up being there. And, the gifts to the influencers, it could have just been a Crash Team Racing kind of like thank you for supporting us leading into the game. Thank you for supporting us when the game launched and after the game, because there were a lot of people on YouTube that covered the game, and Activision definitely, like appreciated them doing it. So like that could have happened, but at the same time, like it happened last year right before the game. So I get the parallels basically there. It was weird. And it just goes to another thing that, like I said in the beginning of this video, it goes to a lot of things that I think could have been at the Game Awards, or, I mean, it's Sony State of Play, but yet again, it's Activision owned. Yeah, when we think of Crash, I think we think of PlayStation. I'm almost 1,000% certain that the games have sold better on PlayStation than Xbox, but what game really doesn't? So, like, I get that people would make the comparisons that, if Crash would be announced, it would maybe be at Sony State of Play. I know Sony and Activision have a good partnership as well, but at the same time, like Sony State of Play, it didn't need to be there, right? Game Awards also, people really, really thought it could have been there, but it does like paint a picture of like why. Like, this is weird because this is just one of many, and I guess I'll spoil it for you guys. There was a lot of rumors about like a Bully 2 or GTA or something Rockstar related. Where was that? Where was the Smash Bros. Character that should have been at the Game Awards? Where was the Batman game? If you guys are watching, because you've seen any of the Batman videos, you know our struggles there, and we have so many videos talking about it. But like, there's like 3, 4, 5 examples of big games or big things that really were teased the heck out of in various ways, whether it was months ago in terms of like Batman, whether it was just recently and leading up to it got more and more, like Crash or like Smash or like whatever. Like, these are things that were just absent, and it's all very now. And I mean, I could be proven really, really dumb if by the time this video goes up or by the time I talk about it, maybe it's like a late thing. And that very well could happen. I just don't see how all of these things kind of get built up and then all of a sudden nothing happens. At the same time, it is becoming kind of more like regular that this kind of stuff happens. Last October, we got probably the leaks, the leakiest of all leaks on that Harry Potter open world game, right? Everybody was talking about it, literally everybody, and so all eyes were on it, and they just let it slip right by. They said, you know what, we're not going to, nobody's saying anything, we don't care, like, we're not going to announce anything, and here we are, almost a year and a half later, with literally nothing. So, it's not completely unheard of, but most of the time, when you do have these amount of teases, when you have these amount of leaks, normally something happens. In terms of this video, in terms of the topic of this video, in terms of Crash, I don't know. I honestly don't know. It makes the most sense for the game to continue. It's every 2-year thing, and so I don't really think it would have made a lot of sense to announce it anyway. But at the same time, with all of the teases, maybe this game was maybe fast-tracked, and they've been working on it for a while, so maybe this game was fast-tracked for like a fall of 2020. Maybe this is like a launch kind of like around that time, like maybe a November 2020 release, and it's on next-gen consoles. I mean, that's totally possible, and if that's the case, then yeah, you could announce them. When we got the Hellblade thing, we know of next-generation games, and we're gonna start knowing of many more of them, so I guess it would have made a little bit of sense to announce it. But if this is like a halfway through 2021 thing, it didn't make so much sense. But at the same time, why have all of the, like, why do what they've done so far? Like, I get it, leaks can come out way earlier. They could very well be making, like, a Crash Worlds game. And when we see it, it could be that, and we're like, well, you know what, they were right. They just heard about it and told us about it a little bit too early, right? They kind of jumped the gun, and Activision just wasn't ready to fully show it. So I can see both sides of it. It's like annoying because you get to hear all this stuff about it. Everybody's talking about it. You see the ads. Your hype is built up, and you're like, man, like we could see. And this is a big one too, right? Because it's like the debate was always, I think, after Team Racing. Nobody really knew. And I guess even though there are leaks, people still obviously don't know 100%. Is it a remake still of another, like Twin Sanity or Crash Bash or whatever? Is it another remake, or is it a brand new, like built from the ground up, new levels, new premise, new story, all that kind of stuff? Is it a new Crash Bandicoot game? That's a big thing. And if it's a new Crash game, I mean, that's the first new Crash game we've gotten in a very, very long time, and it's probably the first Crash game we can take seriously, the first new Crash game we can take seriously in a very, very long time. So this is a very, very big deal, and I'm definitely very, very excited to finally see it. When we will actually see it, they could just wait till E3. I feel like E3, it would be probably a year before we actually get the game. Again, if they do the every 2-year thing, but that makes a little bit more sense. Let these 6 months kind of like tick off and then get to E3, announce it, and then say, hey, you have to wait 1 year, but that's not that big of a wait. At the same time, they could definitely just do it whenever they want. Activision, big enough publisher. Crash is a big enough name that if you just announce a new game just, by yourself in a press release with a trailer or whatever, it can definitely make noise, right? It doesn't need anybody. A lot of games don't necessarily need conferences or awards or things like that in order to get themselves out there. They have a variety of different ways to do it nowadays. So let me know in the comments below, guys. What do you think? What kind of Crash game? Firstly, do you think we're getting? Do you believe this Crash Bandicoot Worlds? Do you think it's a Crash Bash remake? Do you think it's some other game? Let me know. And what do you think happened to it? When do you think we're actually going to see it? Let me know all those things in the comments below. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel podcast. Now hit that bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And I definitely will be covering Crash more often. Every few weeks, we'll be having a new Crash game. We'll talk about potential ideas for the future games. And then when the game is announced, we will cover that as well. Okay, so thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you all on the next video. Hey guys, firstly, thank you so much for getting to this far. This at the end of the video. I really do appreciate it. I do want to quickly remind you guys, we are doing a community event on December 21st. It is the Saturday. It's from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to be playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. If you guys want to play with us, we have the video up on the channel. Make sure you guys go watch that video and leave in the comments that you want to play with us. It's also a live stream event, so you guys just want to kind of swing by, watch us play the game, have some fun right before Christmas. It's going to be an absolute blast, and I hope to see you guys there.